Hi, and welcome to the Manager's Desk. My name's Evan Baltz. I'm a marketing technology leader and a team builder. We've spoken about some of these topics before, but I wanted to kind of bring them all together today to just talk about what I think is probably the most important thing that you or anybody can do as a manager, and that is to build trust with your employees. Everything else you can throw out. If you're unable to build trust, you're not going to be successful. It's truly the bottom line when it comes to building relationships with your coworkers, the people that work for you and around you. But building trust is critical to that. So I've identified six main ways to build trust with your employees. The first is authenticity. We talked about this at length in a previous podcast, but I can't stress it enough. Pretending to be a manager or pretending to be a leader or saying, okay, this is a meeting, I'm the manager, so I have to act a certain way. Um, Not being authentic in those circumstances is going to undercut everything else that follows. I once reported to a director at a major retailer, and she was a great director and she got promoted into the executive office. And I thought that was great for her. She was a very quirky, funny, um, intelligent person, but sometimes she would, I thought, put on a director's hat or a manager's hat and change her personality for that environment. Sometimes it meant, hey, my personality is gone. I'm now sitting here as a director, and you're talking to someone different than the person you were talking to 5 minutes ago in the hallway. That can create insecurities. It can create this feeling that you're inauthentic or that you feel that you have to pretend to be a certain way, right? To be taken seriously or to have people think that you're strong or whatever it might be. And nothing actually could be further from the truth. Some of the best leaders are the most authentic, self deprecating, and humble people, not people who stand in front of a room and shout or who put on a certain air about them in that role. So when I found out that she was promoted, I just went into her office, knocked on the door, came in, closed the door, and I said, I think this is fantastic. I think this is great. And you certainly don't need to take any advice from me, but if I were to give you any advice, it would be to just be yourself, right? Don't think that you have to, oh, this is a more serious role. I have to speak with a lower voice, or I have to frown a lot, or I have to appear serious. Nope, be yourself. People love that about you. They love that you're quirky and that you're funny and that you smile and have a good sense of humor. Don't change that. No one disrespects you for being yourself, right? I think that a lot of people mistake their title for some kind of a personality attribute. You should be the same person, whether you're a contributor, a manager, director, a VP, the CEO of a company, you should be the same person. I know not everybody subscribes to that, but it's something that I firmly believe in. You never have to pretend, you just be yourself. So, authenticity is the number one thing that I would recommend for how to build trust. Number two is compassion. We talked about that in an earlier podcast as well. Caring for people as human beings, right? Not treating your employees or even your coworkers or even your superiors in a transactional way, right? Treating them as human beings, having compassion for them. Look, everyone has a bad day. Everybody has something happen at home or in their personal life that's going to frustrate them, that's going to distract them. Be compassionate about those. You don't always have to know the details, but just be understanding, right? And don't say, well, I don't really care that your parent just died. We have work to get done here. And you'd think, well, no one would ever say that. Really? No one would? We've got lots of posts on LinkedIn about people saying their manager has said exactly something like that. Um, Being compassionate, being understanding, it doesn't mean people don't need to work or don't need to, whatever. It's about being compassionate. The greatest illustration I think that I've ever seen of that is I worked with a lady at a previous company, a smaller company, not a large company, and her daughter had to have surgery and was in and out of the hospital for over a year, I believe. Never once did the CEO of our company question her whereabouts or her commitment or her work and said, whatever you need, whatever it takes, right? This is more important. Your life, your family is more important than this job. That type of compassion builds loyalty and trust like nothing else can. And it's a fabulous display, not only of a great corporate culture, but also that you work for great human beings. And there's something to be said for that when you're working for someone who you believe in, who you trust in, and who has your back and understands that there's perspective in life, right? Number three is honesty. And I think all too often we try to find the right words, not to be overly discouraging sometimes, but also we go the other way. We exaggerate failures of people. And but being honest with somebody, hey, look, you're not living up to expectations right now, but I know that you can, and I'm going to help you get there. Right? That's an honest statement. You haven't made anything up. You haven't pretended to be anybody but a human being with compassion, and you're being authentic. It's a much better way to approach people. If there are some complaints about a person on your team, talk to them about it honestly. Look, some people, I know you don't intend to rub people the wrong way. I know that because I've known you for years, but here are some things that are true and honest issues that other people have. What can we do to sort of counteract that narrative? What kinds of things can we work on? What can we be aware of? Work with people rather than at them or against them. That's critically important. But keeping things honest. Now, here's where sometimes I disagree with others who will say, don't tell your employees about anything bad, right? Always keep a positive attitude, never say anything bad. Here's the problem with that. When things are bad and you don't acknowledge that they are bad, or when there is a problem and you don't acknowledge the problem, that absolutely turns people off. That breaks trust. It's being dishonest. It's then they don't know where they stand, and they don't know where you stand. Let's say some bad decisions have been made by others within an organization, and your employee speaks to you about them and says, I can't believe that that was decided. If you say, well, um, sure, but ultimately it's a great decision because this person's in charge, right? Your level of trust with your employee just went way down because they now think that you're blind and just, towing the line no matter what. There's a constructive way to say, I understand your frustration with that. I have similar frustrations. And between the two of us, let's discuss how we might be able to help that situation. Can we put a plan in place to maybe change or alter future decisions in a more positive way? What kinds of things could we do to affect that change positively? At the end of the day, there are some things that we can't change, and we also have to accept that. And that's being honest with them, saying, look, you and I can both agree that we don't like this, but we're not in a position to change that. So we're going to have to turn the page. It's okay to complain. It is. That's a human experience, right? To be frustrated, and you need an outlet to be able to complain honestly about something. But then don't just leave it there. talk about what can you do about it. And if you can't do anything, it's time to turn the page, right? And we're just going to have to turn the page. Number four is be concerned about employees' career path. We just talked about that in the podcast about promotions. Being proactive with your employee's career path, following through as much as it is possible for you to do so, is a way to build trust with them. They know that you're committed to them for the long term. They know that you're invested in them. In many cases, you may have hired them, so you're invested in their success. Building that kind of relationship where we're going to talk about your career path. We want to get you into an even better job, promotions, higher pay. You're with them in that challenge that builds trust. And it's something that's critically important to retaining your quality employees as well. The fifth one is supporting them both privately and publicly. It's nothing worse than sitting in a one-on-one with the manager who tells you, you're so great. And then they get in another meeting where you're either in it or not in it. And they're like, yeah, that person's really kind of falling behind, or I don't trust them, or, they're just not very good. We're going to have to work around them. That kind of I'll call it hypocritical, sort of a two-faced approach to employees. You're thinking that your relationship with them is somehow in a vacuum and that they're not going to hear or find out what you think of them outside of your one-on-one relationship with them. And that's a mistake, because clearly they will. They'll hear it from others. Hey, I hope you know that this person doesn't actually trust you, or this person was bad-mouthing you in another meeting. That is trust that will be almost impossible to get back if you break trust like that. Be authentic and honest and support the person both in private and in public. If you don't support the employee, then why are they your employee? It's your job to support them and coach them and grow them. And by supporting them in public, by letting others know that you value the contributions that they make, say that hey, they're different than some of the other employees. They approach things differently, and I appreciate that. They're not quick to respond because they want to take the time to think it through and provide a good answer or a good solution. Find ways to support your employees publicly as well. And then number six, and I think this is something that doesn't happen very often, ask your employees for their advice. I give this illustration. When I was a kid, my dad wanted to make over our family room. This is a long time ago, but he wanted to put wainscoting up, and he had an idea of how he wanted to do it, and he had talked through it, and he bought the supplies and all of that and was ready to go ahead and do it. But we'd have guests over, and he'd bring them down to the family room, and he'd say, "What do you think, Jim? What do you think I should do down here?" I had an idea of maybe doing some wainscoting, and they'd be like, "Yeah, how would you go about doing that?" And would ask that question. They go, "Well, I'd put a tray rail at this height, and then I would use these kind of nails." And, "Oh, that's a good idea. I think I might do that." And when the person would leave, I'd say, "Dad, you're being a hypocrite. Like, you already decided that that's what you're going to do. Why are you asking that person for their opinion?" And he said, "Because they may offer something that I hadn't thought of." And it encourages that person to build trust with you and to share that experience of sort of thinking through the whole process and how to do it. And you're building a relationship. And I think the same is true. Even if I think I might have an answer to a problem in a work environment, I want to ask my employees what their opinion about it is and what their solution or how they would go about solving it. I am always amazed at how wonderfully intelligent everybody that I've worked with on my teams have been. And they have great advice, and they have wonderful suggestions, and they have thought about these things. I want to hear what they have to say. I want to know that they're engaged, and this is a way to help them be engaged and also to just listen to what they have to say. Now, the worst thing I could do was say, "Yeah, that's not a good idea. We're not doing that." Right? Every idea has something valid in it. "Hey, that's a great idea. I think in our circumstances, though, the budget is too restrictive to go that direction. I wish we could. What are some other things? Help me figure out some other ways, or what do you think would be some other ways where we could do it at a lower cost? Is there anything that we could adjust in that plan? Those are the types of conversations to have, but ask their opinion. How do you think we should approach it? How do you think we should manage the work? How do you think we should score the points in agile? Asking those types of questions helps your employees understand that their opinion is valid. And not only do you want their opinion, you're demanding it of them. This is the one thing I demand of you. I want to hear what you think. And not every idea is going to be the winner, but I want to hear as many as possible and then talk them through and build a consensus, right? This is how you build trust with employees. It's asking for their opinion, listening to them, and then doing what they say in most cases. So, ways to build trust again, number one, authenticity. Number two, compassion. Number three, honesty. Number four, be concerned about their career path. Number five, support them both privately and publicly. And number six, ask for their advice and take it. If you have any thoughts or comments on any of these podcasts, please leave your notes in the comments or contact me on Twitter. You can also listen to these podcasts on iHeartRadio or Amazon Music. One of the best ways to view them is on Spotify. Thanks again, and we'll see you next time.